Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to say I'm happy to be here, but I really wish we weren't. But because we're here, what I referred to recently is this horrible opportunity that was presented to us last year. We can all agree, and the executive and I have had this conversation many times, how amazing this recovery has been. That a year since the devastating flood and the amazing damage that was done to this community, where many of us walked up and down the street and just wondered, could we ever recover? The answer is in front of you. This town is thriving again and will continue to thrive and expand in ways that we hadn't imagined. All what the county executive just talked about is not about repairing and restoring this community, this town, Ellicott City that we love. It's about making it a much better place. Safer for the folks who live here and work here, but also a better destination for those who've never been here and those who love this destination and come here regularly. This town is going to come back better than it was before. Part of that is an example of the businesses that you see on Main Street. When we walked down here just a month or so after the flood, I was communicating with a council member in a jurisdiction in Colorado whose town had experienced a fire and then a flood. And she said the biggest part was the businesses. And I said, well, how are yours doing? She said, 3 years out, we're about 50%. Well, we are 1 year out, and we're at 93% of the businesses open, operating, and some of them having amazing years in the business that they're doing. Now, we did lose some businesses that could not come back for a variety of reasons, but we have a whole bunch of new businesses that have added a new vibrancy, a new feel to the town, to the street, and have already made their mark and will continue to make their mark as we go forward. So I'm excited when I walk up and down the street. Sometimes you get a little confused. Some businesses have moved, right? So they were in one place, now they're in another place, but everybody who has come back strong. And the new businesses that have joined us are offering new services and some exciting new products as well. One of the things that we have to take time to do is to thank the people that gave of themselves, their time, their energy, their money. The thousands of people who flooded, I use that term literally, with a bit of tongue-in-cheek, the town afterwards to help clean up. Just in those days right after the storm, even the idea of cleaning the street and picking up the debris, it seemed overwhelming. But when you came down the days following, when volunteers started hitting the street, it was like a swarm of ants. Everywhere there were people who had a connection or just a compelling reason to come and be a part of what was happening here in our town. And they made a difference, a huge difference. That compounded with the fact that we raised over $1.8 million from the public to support the businesses, the residents that make up this great community. That money was distributed so that people could come back, restore their businesses, and deal with the losses that they had. As the county executive said, we've got a lot of projects in place, some that have already made the town better than it was before the flood, the stream beds that have been restored, but there is not much you can do, as he said also, when 6 inches of rain comes from the sky in just a couple hours. I was trying to comprehend that if you just turned your faucet on and to try to get 6 inches of rain, it's a pretty steady stream if you did it over some time, it's just a lot of water, and we studied that water flow deeply. I use that term a little loosely, but we went through a lot of studies to make sure that we knew where the water was coming from, where it was collecting, and from that study came all the projects the executive mentioned. I fully support the strategy that we've undertaken to study the problem, to pick those projects that will have the biggest impact, and I think the ideas that came from the community and from our county government staff, we picked some good projects. I'm looking forward to those moving forward, and reiterate what the executive said is it will take partnership from our state and federal colleagues. And then the floodproofing, I'll put another plug in for it. There's just so much we can do as well on the street, and behind the buildings, and under the ground. Our residents and business owners and property owners need to take the steps necessary, and we're providing the education. The Army Corps of Engineers has been involved to how we flood-proof the businesses as well. So I'll just wrap up by saying that, one, I'm deeply honored to represent this district, and I live just up the street. I picked where I live because of Main Street. My wife and I, when we were looking to move from Columbia, we had spent so much time on Main Street, we're like, we might as well move close enough so we can get there a lot quicker. I'm actually a neighbor of Joe Herr, the chief who came back into service for our community to help us recover. But the one thing that I think everybody will agree as well is the buildings are in better shape than they were a year ago. For sure, the streets back in service, the sidewalks are walkable, but the spirit that makes this community Ellicott City is indestructible. And we've learned that over this last year, and for that I'm grateful. And I thank those of you who in the community have come back to restore your businesses and restore your faith in this community that we know and love.